Hey, welcome back. You know, last week we were at the Solicitors Conference getting our continuing legal education. This week we're starting off a double murder trial in Georgetown, so I'll be back next week to talk with you about that, whatever happened in that case. Scott Hickson and Dylan Bagnall are trying that, and generally what happens is on Mondays we pick the jury and then they do pretrial hearings to determine what the rest of the week is going to look like. You know, what rules are going to come in and what rules will we follow. I would suggest that tomorrow they will start with the opening statements and start calling witnesses, and probably by Thursday we will be through. Then the defense can put up anybody that they want to put up, and we'll have some sort of a verdict by Friday. But even though we were at the conference last week, and I've talked with you guys about this in the past, but I want you to understand how important this is going on in the background. In our office, we've got 3 people that are both prosecutors, state prosecutors, and federal prosecutors. And the reason that we do that, and the reason that it works so well in Georgetown, is that there are laws that are where someone is federally prohibited or it's a federal type situation. And you can't really do much with it in state court. There are laws out there that you can't do anything in federal court, but you're better off keeping it in state court. So by us having a foothold in the federal system with 3 federal prosecutors, we can pick which place that this is best. I bet you didn't know this, but if you're walking around with fake money, fake currency, counterfeit $20 bills, the state can't prosecute you under that theory. That is a federal charge. Feds worry about money and the diluting of money because of putting it into circulation. And they want exclusive control over that. If a person's walking around with a few fake 20s, the feds aren't going to pick that up over $40 or $100. So what we have to do is charge them in state court under a forgery type concept, but we can't get into anything to do with counterfeit money. We just have to sort of work a end around to get that so that people aren't passing fake 20s. And we close that loophole. And there are ways that experienced prosecutors can go back and forth between the state and federal. What happened last week is a perfect example of that. We were at the conference, but some of us had to go up and help in federal court. Orlando Menendez, 21 years old, of Conway, had a traffic accident or a vehicle stop, and in the vehicle they found a 45 caliber gun, a pistol, and you may have one or a 9mm or whatever else. What they can do, and you can order it, online. It's illegal, but you get a cap that puts onto the end of that gun and really doesn't change the look of the gun much at all, but it turns that 45 into a machine gun. In other words, you don't have to pull the trigger 5 times to get it to shoot 5 shots. You pull the trigger and it just sprays shots until it's empty, just like you see on war movies. There's a lot of those clips going around now, and that is a federal law, but there's really no state law. There's a state law that you can't own a machine gun, but the clips really play nicely in federal court. So what we did with this case is we took it through our prosecutors to federal court, and Mr. Menendez goes in. He has already pled guilty. Federal court, they do it a little bit differently. They don't sentence you immediately, but he's looking at up to 10 years by just having that Glock switch which is kind of a misnomer. It can go on any kind of gun, but we call it a Glock switch. You put that in, and that turns it into a machine gun. So they're doing a pretrial, pre-sentencing investigation now, and at some point they'll come back and they'll sentence him from somewhere from 0 to 10 years through the federal statute. But that's some of the ways that we work together. With Mary Ann Elvington, you had 3 or 4 different jurisdictions tied up, including North Carolina. So we saw fit to take that federally and handle it all at one time. And now Brand is serving life imprisonment without possibility of parole in federal court. From time to time, it can only be like a percentage, a small percentage of the time, because they don't handle nearly the cases that you do in state court. In state court, we'll have 10,000 warrants just in Horry County alone, and another 2,000 in Georgetown this year. 12,000 felony warrants between Horry and Georgetown. In Florence, the federal court part, well, the entire state in federal court, they'll have no more than 400 warrants. So 12,000 versus 400 is the vast majority has got to go through state court. But when you are able to pick in there, see, South Carolina, we don't have really any sort of RICO statute or racketeering statute that they have in Georgia and they have in North Carolina. Tried to get one passed last year, but it wouldn't pass. But because we have federal prosecutors in-house, we can take a RICO type case through the federal courts, and what that means to you and I, people that are living around, we can take up entire gangs instead of just 1 or 2 gang members through federal RICO statute. Same thing that they used to get the mobsters back in the day in the 30s and 40s, we use nowadays to go through the federal system. So it's almost what I describe it as is you need an army, which we've got an army of prosecutors, but you also need a sniper, one person that can open up other pathways and slow bad guys down and keep throwing curveballs. And that's what we do with our partnership with the federal government. So it helps us, and we get to pick sort of what cases go that way. We can't send all of them. It can't be that kind of a release valve, but it can be enough to take the worst of the worst off of the street and take them federally. So that's what we were doing, even though we were down getting continuing legal education hours last week. We were still working, even though all of the state courts were closed down, we were still working in federal court. And we'll continue to do that, and we'll continue to make that sacrifice because it opens up federal prisons, it opens up federal courthouses, and it opens up a whole new series of law. So that is why one of the reasons that we do what we do in trying to get bad guys taken off the street in the most effective and with the most time imaginable.